Hello, another week passed, like weeks tend to do. This week in school was saw the introduction of Keigo properly, which is scary to everyone. It's the very polite way of speaking Japanese, because in Japanese you have the futsuke, the standard, which is also called futsu means normal, standard, but it's called casual usually, and you're only supposed to speak that with your friends and family and people you know well. And then it's tenego, which is polite speak pretty much, which is des mas and that kind of thing. Which I used to see as polite, but it's not really. Well, it's called that, but it's not really, because they call Keigo polite, which is honorific, really, which is what you're supposed to speak to your superiors. Because in Japan, they still have sort of a kind of a class system, not really, but sort of. Because to your boss, to your teacher, to your people who are above you on the social chain or whatever, you're supposed to speak to them more politely. I guess in Swedish and English you do that too, but not. You just avoid. You just don't say anything rude to them. Pretty much, that's your way of being polite. And you might change your way of speaking a little bit, but it's not. Here you have totally different like ways of conjugating and new words. Regular words like ikimasu becomes another word, irashaimasu. That's where irashaimase comes from, by the way, which means like welcome when someone goes into a store. But it's basically like, oh, customer, you came in, sort of. At least in one way, it's a little easier to conjugate, because it's like, please wait. It's like, omachi kudasai. So, machimasu is to wait. Usually it's matte kudasai, but you have to use the te form. But here you can just have machimasu, drop mas, and then machi, and then put o in front, because it's polite that way, and then just drop kudasai after, or machi kudasai, which I kind of like in a way, because you don't have to conjugate, you don't have to remember what the te form is. You only have to remember the mas form, which you usually know anyway. There's only also the one where you, if you ask like, did you read the newspaper, kacho, yomaremashita ka? You have to use mareru, the rareru form, to ask politely instead of just yomimashita ka. Which I don't know why exactly, because there's also the oyomi ni narimashita ka. Did it become that you read it or something? So like that's more polite. So why would you use the one that's less polite, even though it's still polite? I don't know, but that'll be later. So next week is going to be more of that. It's not super hard yet, but I think it's going to be pretty hard. Also next week is going to be a whole bunch of tests, because it's the finals. The one that I'm not looking forward to is on Thursday. We have pronunciation test, actually, which is basically repeat after me kind of thing, but they grade everyone's how they say it, pretty much. The problem is that on Thursday we have 3 of those. On the second one, which is on Thursday, we have the worst teacher to have that with, Fujitani sensei. She is strict when it comes to pronunciation. You have to say it exactly the way she wants you to, and it tickles my rebellious bone, because I don't think it matters that much exactly how you say it. I think very few. If you pronounce Japanese way off, yeah, people will be like, what did you say? And look at you funny. But if you just don't say everything exactly the way they say it, there's not going to be a problem in the real world. But at school, you have to do exactly what they say, of course. The problem is that when you do say it like that, you sound like a announcer voice. Basically how they speak in subways when you hear the announcer guy. That's sort of how they want you to speak, and it's not relevant to the real world. That's kind of like how with the kanji stroke order, like you don't write with a brush anyway. As long as it looks like it's supposed to look, it doesn't matter which direction you did everything. But as I said, it's school, so I still have to conform a bit, at least for the tests, and then after school I can just do what I want again. There was a fun little moment on Friday when the teacher asked everyone why they started studying Japanese, and I said because I wanted to understand video games and maybe work in Japan in the future, which I actually do, but I sort of threw that in there to not seem as immature, I guess, with the whole games thing. But there was another guy, a Chinese guy, who always sits with his phone in class, like every fucking day, and he has like one earplug in all the time, and he just responds to the teacher when she asks something, but otherwise he would just be on his phone all the time, pretty much. He doesn't seem very interested in a way. So when he was asked why you study Japanese, he said, because I have time. I wasn't doing anything else, kind of. And now the pieces fall into place. Now I know why he is the way he is, sort of. My blood test results came in, although it was a little... The clinic I went to wasn't the best, actually, because... Okay, I went there, took the test with a giant-ass needle instead of those little thingies that you attach to the other thing, whatever. He said, come back in 10 days to get the result. 10 days happened to be on a Saturday, so I came in on Sunday. I went there on Sunday, but it was closed. It was closed both Saturday and Sunday. So why did he tell me 10 days if it was 13 days or whatever? So I came in the Monday, and he wasn't there, so the nurses said, can you come after school? So I had to leave 15 minutes early from school to get there, and I go there, and he has the results, but he hasn't written the paper in English that I asked him to. So I had to come back on Thursday to get those papers. But I have them anyway. I'm going to send to Sweden now, and the tests are fine, by the way, which means I can stay in Japan at least until the next test, which is in 3 months, which I'll make sure to take in February, so I have time to send whatever results back to Sweden, because if something comes up and I have to go home, at least I will go home just before the third term starts, and when that starts, that's also in between, that's basically half time. So that's when I would have to apply to get student loans for the rest of the term, and I have to pay the second half of the tuition. So if something would come up, then at least if I do it right, I can go home without having to pay the second half and then quitting, because that would be just a waste of money. Because after you paid it, that's it, you don't get the money back. But everything's looking fine on that front. And I went to the gym and weighed myself, and I weigh 132 kilos, which is a lot, but for me is way less. It's the least I've weighed for 5 years, so that's very good. The last record low was 133, which was just after I had chemo, which is, that's why I lost some weight at that time. But now I've beat it without going through serious medical treatment, so that's good. And that's 2.5-ish months, 2 months and 1 week or whatever. So 10 more months, hopefully 10 more kilos or something. Even though it's not 10 yet, but whatever. Yeah, good week. Next week is going to be a bunch of tests, and the week after that one too. But then after that, I go to Okinawa for 5 days, which is going to be pretty good. Which means another round of Yakuza filming, of course, because I will go to Naha, and that's where my hostel is anyway. And I'll try to find a beach that looks like the one where the orphanage is, and I'll look for the little M-story area and the marketplace and everything. That will be great. New Year's I'll probably spend in Kyoto, and then probably go to Tokyo the week after, and the school is off between December 20th to January 11th, so there's some time there. But now, games. This week I bought quite a few, and it's kind of a mix between games I definitely wanted and games that I sort of wanted, which is a little interesting. A few of those are games that I have on my list to buy, but I don't think they're really great games either, and they're a few that I haven't really tried. So I'll try them, but I'm not sure if I'll keep them. Anyway, I'll start with 2 Game Boy Advance games to be just a little variety. First one is definitely one I'm not sure I'm going to keep. It's Rockman 04, and you can't see this, but whatever. Rockman 04. Now, this is just a complete... I have Rockman 1, 2, 3 before, so this is 4. The problem with those is that I have Rockman 0 Collection on DS, and that means maybe that I will get rid of the 4 Game Boy Advance games. On the other hand, I've made it my mission to collect Mega Man games, so for the collection purposes I should keep them. On the other hand, they're not really playable on the Game Boy Advance, though they are playable, but They're definitely nowhere near as good as on DS, because on DS you can play like a Super Nintendo setup, which is what this kind of game requires pretty much. On Game Boy Advance you have to use R to dash or hit forward twice, and it just feels awkward with just 2 buttons. So I haven't actually tried the DS version yet, but I bet that's going to be way better. So will I actually then keep the Game Boy Advance versions? I'm not sure. Next is Let me see here. Rockman X Battle Chip GP, which is Mega Man Battle Chip Challenge, which is like a kind of a card battle-ish game. There's no like adventure sections walking around. It's just a bunch of card battles. It's not really a game I really wanted, actually, but for collection purposes, I need it. But I didn't. Well, I've seen the box a few times, but not the cartridge only. Now I've found cartridge only, and I bought it, and it was just 100 yen anyway, so it was really fucking cheap. And it's just to complete my collection, pretty much. Super Nintendo, first game, Kishindoji Senki Dene Raibu. I had the other one, Retto Raiden, or what it was. This one is that one's a platformer. This is a platformer and weird boss battles with energy meters and stuff. It has quite good graphics. The problem is that those fighting parts are not very fun, but the platforming parts are. And luckily there is passwords to just skip to the platforming pretty much, so maybe that's what I'll do, but yeah. Next from Natsume, it's Jiro-kun no Daiboken, aka Spanky's Quest, starring Spanky the Monkey. Get it? It's a what do you call it? Puzzle platformer, pretty much. No puzzle. I don't know, but it's a platformer, but it's not like regular levels. It's I don't know, more like Ice Climber or whatever. But you have to collect keys and then open the exit. And there are enemies, and you can move, you can jump, you can shoot a bubble, but if you hit the attack button again in midair while the bubble is in midair, you turn it into a baseball pretty much, and then if the baseball hits an enemy, it will attack it. The bubble does nothing. But if you bounce the bubble on your head, you can bounce it a few more times to get other kind of balls actually to attack the enemy. So baseball first, and then it's like a football, a golf ball or something, and then like a basketball finally, and they all like work in different ways. And it does have boss battles and everything. I just played through like the first 10 levels, which was like a big tutorial, and then the actual game starts. So it seems like a pretty fun game. Lots of balls and monkey, Spanky. Let's move on. Here's a game I took a chance on just because it says Capcom on the front, and it's a Disney game. It's Disney's Pinocchio. Now that when I actually got home with it, I read, and it says Japanese distribution by Capcom. So I go to GameFAQs and look up that it's made by Virgin Interactive, or developed by anyway. Which means that first I see Disney and I see Capcom. I was like, that's a winner usually. I mean, Bonkers was pretty good, and the Mickey and Donald whatever games are good. So maybe this will be good. And I tried it, and it's okay. It's pretty simple. It's got good graphics, but it's not really great. It's barely average-ish. It's not bad, but I'm not sure I'll keep it. Next, Alcahest from Squaresoft, and made by HAL Laboratory, I think, because it says HAL Laboratory on here. The thing is, I thought this game's name was Alcachest, but now that I see it, look at it better, it says Alcahest. And then the Japanese one says Arca Est. So the H is silent, I guess. This is a top-down action RPG along the lines of, I guess, Mana, Legend of Mana, the first one, Seiken Densetsu, aka Final Fantasy Adventure. I mean, it's sort of Zelda-like, but you have stats and level up, and you find, there's a storyline, and you find allies, and it has like, sometimes you can uncover these panels on the ground. If you walk on them, you do like a lunge attack across the screen and everything. But the problem is you only have 5 continues, so grinding a bit is probably a good idea, but I think I like this one. Last Super Nintendo game is definitely one on a big one. It's Castlevania Dracula XX. Not triple X, just double. Akumajo Dracula XX. It's the Super Famicom version of Rondo of Blood, pretty much. It's kind of a remix version or something. It's a classic Castlevania game, pretty much. But the thing is that it's pretty expensive. Usually, when it comes to Swedish crowns, I bought this for pretty much less than 300, and it usually goes for 500 or more. I bought it for 4,000 yen almost, and usually it's more like 6,000 or 7,000. So I got it for a good price. And I prefer Super Castlevania 4, but it's still good. And Castlevania, yeah, it's a good one. And I'm glad I have it. Famicom, first one. What's this? Metal Gear. Metal Gear. With Kyle Reese on the cover here, of course. Metal Gear, only 750 yen. I was really curious to see if the Famicom version is any different than the NES version, any better. It's not. It's just you can see on the Japanese text that the guy I feel asleep in the beginning. He says in Japanese he says I don't forget exactly what whole sentence, but he used the word nemui, which means sleepy. So he said I am sleepy or I feel sleepy. Not I feel asleep, of course, not I fell asleep either. He was sleepy, the guy, now we know. And the Japanese version doesn't have any typos that I can see. But you still start in the jungle, you still have to get to the actual base before you can continue, so it still has all the same problems that the original has. But it's got good music, and it's pretty interesting. At least, I think I'm going to keep this one. Now for a few games that I'm not sure I'm going to keep for that long. I'm not sure, I haven't decided yet. First one is Happy Birthday Bugs, aka Bugs Bunny's Birthday Blowout, which actually isn't that bad of a game. The only problem really, I guess, is that it's not really that good of a game either. I always think the two big problems with the game is that it's hard to hit enemies without getting hit yourself, because the hitbox is kind of off, and the scrolling is weird. Whenever the screen scrolls, it doesn't flow smoothly, it kind of jitters a bit, so it fucks with your eyes a little bit. But it's a decent platformer. It's just, I'm not sure I want to keep it around, because I have to remind myself that my philosophy on games collecting now is just not buy every platformer that exists, not buy every game that exists, just buy the ones that I actually like. So to what degree do I have to like something to actually keep it around? I'm not sure. Next, another platformer, Great Battle Cypher. I don't think it has anything to do with the Great Battle series on Super Famicom, apart from it being a combination again of Gundam, Ultraman, and Kamen Rider. Were they all made by the same companies or something? Because this crossover is really common. But it's a platformer. It's not too much platforming going on. Kind of like a little beat 'em up ish. Not that good, but not bad either. So I'm not sure. Next one is an interesting one. It's Hostages. It just says Hostages, but in the game I think it says Hostages, the Embassy Mission. It's actually Rescue the Embassy Mission, as we know it in the West, which is a game that I remember it for being kind of like Rainbow Six on the NES, where you have to like stop terrorists with a SWAT team or something. And for the intro music and the title screen music, which is like do 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 do. Which is pretty cool. But the game is really short. I haven't gotten past... There are only 3 sections. I've only gotten to the second. First is you have to get the guards to the end without being spotted and killed. Second part you have to snipe snipe a bunch of windows. And the third part you're basically going inside the building in a kind of like a Shadowgate style and shooting them. It's strange. And the game can be completed in 10 minutes apparently if you know what to do, which I don't yet. But do I want to keep it just for the music? Is it really worth keeping otherwise? Not sure. A better game, Doki Doki Yuenchi. In the West it's called Trolls in Crazyland. So they kept the Crazyland but made it trolls instead of just a random kid in what I think is a baseball helmet, because he goes around actually kicking footballs at enemies, not baseballs, but whatever. So it reminds me kind of like, reminds me of Time Zone with the whole, and Wagan Land with the whole, not isometric, but the perspective isn't totally flat. It's kind of like this, which makes it slightly disorienting sometimes. But this one it's actually, I would say it's probably a little better than Time Zone, but I'm not sure how good it is, but it's good at least. Next, the best of the Famicom games, Yume Penguin Don Monogatari, which is, I think, the sequel to Arctic Adventure by Konami. Arctic Adventure by Hideo Kojima, by the way. This one I don't think is. This is a fun game. It's one of those that's both fun and funny. Actually, I say it's actually a little funnier than it is fun, as in plain old gameplay. But you play as this penguin who's rescuing sort of his penguin girlfriend, or just trying to win her over, because she's pretty much been stolen away by this cool penguin in sunglasses. And the problem with your player character is that you get fat if you eat food. And if you drink some kind of powered energy drink or something, you become thin. So you have your standard stages, but the fun thing is that if you beat the stage while being fat, the girl penguin doesn't accept you. You lose the level and you have to start over. What a bitch. But that's really funny. Yeah, I like this game. Last of the cartridges. Zero Wing. Of course, that's the game with all your base, all your base are belong to us. It's nostalgic for me, Zero Wing. It's, I don't usually like space shooters, but this one's actually not that bad, and the music's great, so yeah, that's one I wanted. Finally, 2 games for the PlayStation. They were both really cheap, and I've been thinking about them for a long time anyway, because I like Resident Evil so much. It's Dino Crisis 1 and 2. Both are the same price, 180 yen, which is nothing. It's pretty much Resident Evil with dinosaurs, at least the first one. I've heard that the second one is slightly different and improved in some ways. But yeah, I really don't know much about them other than they're kind of like Resident Evil, made by Capcom and everything. So yeah, quite a few games this time. But yeah, hopefully, I don't think I'll. Because now I've pretty much I've been to a lot of stores in Osaka now too, because I've been going there quite a few times this last month. So now I'm really running out of stores to go to, I guess. Well, next to buy games will be in Okinawa, anyway. But yeah, it's kind of funny now how all the PlayStation games I have, except for Jumping Flash, are made by Capcom. It's all the Mega Man games and Resident Evil 1 and then Dino Crisis 1 and 2. So yeah, I'm really a Capcom guy when it comes to PlayStation. Anyway, that's it for everything, and see you next Tecmo. I mean Capcom. I mean week.